Welcome back to another episode of our Wyckoff Crypto discussion. As usual, today we will study the crypto market through the lens of the Wyckoff method. This information is for educational purpose only, as it is not investment recommendation. Please stop the video and read the disclaimer. Interesting market this week. The last few weeks have been a very intellectually challenging spot. In our last session, we were discussing several scenarios for the main indexes. Weakness was coming in, but just after our Thursday session, we have identified many signs of demand around the support of several formations, and kudos to Roman for that early call. So, once again, let's turn the clock back to last week. So after Thursday, we had a very constructive close for the week. Crypto have been in the rally mode for the whole weekend. But what's the picture of the market right now? The S&P is leading the market toward new high. The altcoin index is showing signs of institutional interest. And we see that on the chart, Bitcoin is still lagging the market. But despite of the weakness that we have seen, is still holding. But the most significant chart on this screen for me is the Nasdaq Index. The Nasdaq is the index that was aggressively sold by institutions in February, and that selling has been reflected in the whole market, including the crypto space. In the last month, we have seen a thin market where small crypto caps were leading, while the rest of the assets was lagging or consolidating. And since then, the Nasdaq has been a very fascinating chart. This downsloping structure reflects the weakness produced by the sell-off, the lack of institutional consensus, the lack of momentum traders. But what happens at point 2? Market shows inability to react, and we make high or low. This spot is very tricky for our Wyckoff analysis. It requires a double effort. What do we see here? A higher low followed by a lower high. This sequence usually produces a very bearish sentiment. And as Wyckoffians, we should always keep in mind how the structure can trigger our emotions. Because when we are in a consolidation, the market is always going to be tricky. And for this reason, we always need a fresh mind. Judge the market by its own action. What happens next? The rally at point 3 acts as a confirmation that demand was present throughout this whole formation. And I suspect that we're still in the boundaries of a much larger formation. But what's really interesting for us, crypto traders, is the whole context of the market. The S&P is making new high, demand is coming in the Nasdaq, short-term outperformance, and we are seeing that all of a sudden, the formation that were in a longer consolidation, the crypto space, are gaining some momentum. So, Roman, what do you think about this whole picture here?
Yeah, well, everything looks bullish to me. That's statement number one. I mean, you look at Nasdaq, weakness, high or low, as Alessio described, and now we're breaking out. So it's a short-term bullish opportunity here, and we're thinking that this is the area where we might stop. Just because Nasdaq is weaker, there should be some kind of stop in action reaction, or temporary stop in action. So we have to observe what's going to happen here. We can't really say what will happen. We are saying that there is definitely a high chance of continuation, and then there should be some supply that might come at this level. S&P holding really nicely and making the new high today, all-time high today. So what's not to like here? 4,000. Very, very big psychological level. Usually the price will kind of like go through this level and test something higher. Altcoin up, Bitcoin, as Alessio said, holding. There is not a lot of supply. So overall bullish is just all about tactics, like, shorter term reaction, because we might have a shorter term reaction in Bitcoin, maybe something like this, and then going up from here. So this could be all she wrote, in terms of this latest reaction. I think that's it, Alessia, on this. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Yes, we have studied the relationship between the dollar, gold, and Bitcoin. And Bruce and Roman discussed in yesterday Wyckoff market discussion the multi-year structure of gold, which is very close to an important support area. But we still have to look for a confirmation that demand is really there. But what I found so fascinating here is the structure of Bitcoin, gold, and the dollar, because the dollar is very close to an important supply level. And at the same time, we see this support area in gold, and look at the three red spots. In all of these spots, we see weakness, short-term weakness in Bitcoin, and a rally in the dollar. So this inverse correlation is very has been investigated so many times, and I think this is very interesting, Roman. What do you think about this whole picture?
Yeah, I am kind of a little bit puzzled with this rally rate here for dollar, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm just so bullish on Bitcoin long term. So therefore, if this relationship stays, and you could see this relationship even on a much larger scale, right? A big rally in Bitcoin, a big decline in US dollar, and then we have kind of like different slightly different correlation here on the rallies and the reactions. But what's interesting is that if we had the rally in Bitcoin and then decline in the US dollar, both are in the upsloping structure right now. And I think this is where Bitcoin is showing actually strength, long-term strength. Why? Well, because if correlation was to, kind of like be continuing and going on, we probably should have had a decline in Bitcoin, which is downsloping, something like this, which would be the opposite to what the US dollar is doing. But it's actually upsloping, and that's what catches my attention. That even though in the area where by the correlation we should experience the downsloping reaction, Bitcoin is showing the strength. So it's very, very positive for me. Okay.
So here's the intraday picture of Bitcoin we see here for our chart. So this is, I think it's a very challenging structure, because basically we see this first reaction to the downside where there is a lot of demand. We see that in the signature. And after that, this structure stay above the previous resistance level. And right now we are consolidating and trying to hold around this area. So I like the fact that supply is still decreasing. I think that we have to wait for the resolution of the whole structure, but the picture still looks very constructive for the long term, Roman. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, again, how would the distribution structure look like? And I still keep hearing from now and then, either at the Discord or on Twitter or even among our students, that somebody thinks that this is a distribution just because we can't push up through these levels. There are no distributional signs yet. There is some emergence of selling, and then it goes away. So that's definitely a not distributional sign. So
yes, I think, Roman, that the confusion here is all about leadership and laggership, because basically it's very tricky to decrypt assets that are not showing leadership characteristics. And Bitcoin is currently not in the leadership position. It's still lagging the whole crypto market. And we should always keep in mind this factor. Roman, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Another way of looking at this is like, what's going on with the structure? What are the most important points on the structure here on 4-hour chart? So usually the breakouts, those are going to be the most important things where the price will be kind of attracted to this point again. And we're seeing how the price stays either above it in the first case or then within it. So this shows a little bit of weakness. So I liked one of the comments today on the Discord from G. James that the price might react first and then go up. I really like this because I think he was showing this bar right here, and yeah, this is a breakout bar. So just to see the same type of structure where we first touch and then we might penetrate. So first touch and then we might penetrate this a little bit more, and then continue to the upside. And I would be thinking that there might be obviously a much larger reaction. We've talked about this with Alessio. We've talked about like a possibility of maybe like a true phase C here. So this should develop under specific conditions of something bearish as a catalyst comes in, and this type of structure would unfold. But I mean, even here with a little bit of the absorption, which might fail here, like this, but still there is an absorption at the higher level. And this is what I'm liking about this chart, that it's doing this at the higher level, at the level of the resistance. So there is an ability of the price to stay in the upper part of this whole formation, which is still bullish.
Yes, I think that the most important message for Bitcoin chart is we have to stay within the boundaries of that uptrend. Mm-hmm. So the support line that you have drawn, I think it's very important. And right now we are seeing Bitcoin, shitcoin index, and altcoin index. So basically, we have seen that the shitcoin index was leading the market in the last weeks, and right now let's look at what happens at point 1 and point 2. Basically, we see a spring with a weakness in the market, what we are seeing in the last weeks, and after that, the altcoin index is recovering. And look at that beautiful price action. Also, I've highlighted here point 2, Bitcoin is flat, the shitcoin index is flat, and the altcoin index is actually trying to make a higher high here. So this is a first sign of leadership for the altcoin index, but we should always look for confirmation of leadership. And that happens generally with outperformance on the way up and then on the way down. So I was thinking here, Roman, is it possible that the shitcoin index continues to the upside for a while? The altcoin index makes here a major sign of strength in this structure, and then we have a correction, and that correction could be the real moment where we can spot the shift of leadership from the shitcoin index to the altcoin index.
Well, I'm definitely would like to see how that's going to unfold. And I'm liking your scenarios here with the shitcoin, going into the overbought condition, like maybe it did here or here, and then some kind of consolidation from here. And then with the altcoin, yeah, we are so close to the resistance. There is enough momentum and intention behind overcoming this resistance and then consolidating in this kind of like a backing up action. So yeah, and I wonder, how these events obviously are going to influence the Bitcoin itself.
So here we see two charts. So ThorChain and Uniswap, and ThorChain has been submitted by one of the member of our community. So kudos to Scott. Right now we are in a very overextended rally, so it's very difficult to enter the market in such a rally. You can always look for a very small intraday time frame. But what I find interesting in this chart is its resemblance to the structure of the Uniswap. And I'm actually entering right now in this position of Uni. I think that these two structures are very, very similar. So what we see here, buying climax, then a reaction that makes a high high, a higher low during the market correction, and now we are trying to overcome that spring level. So I really like this cryptocurrency, Roman. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you suggested this to me a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. And I was waiting for the reaction and then the test. So I invented this position somewhere here a little bit earlier. So I'm in it. I absolutely like it. I like how, we had a very good rally, and then we're still within the body of this big bar. This is the conclusion of this whole round, and this is the climactic bar. And yet, look how even the closes here in this area, they have all of the tails, and the lowest close is actually here at this level. So it doesn't go to the low of the bar. It doesn't close there. And then this reaction was so strong in terms of not achieving a bearish result that is more significant than what it is into this high low. So I absolutely love this position. Yeah, and there is some resemblance to the upper structure.
Here's Binance Coin, so it's one of the big caps, and we are seeing basically the structure is very similar to the altcoin index. So we are trying to make this major sign of strength. We'll probably see a picking up action, but this whole structure is very close to the end of this multi-month reaccumulation structure. So your thoughts, Roman?
Yeah. Also liking this, I was looking at the Binance coin. I don't think it's on Kraken.
No, but it's on Binance, so
By the
Binance
way,
US.
I'm cracking up with all of your comments about my trade in cryptos. I'm kind of like so light on myself, and always like with the smile and with the laugh, like all this crypto trading is just like it's different. It's definitely different. It requires a little bit of a different mindset to go through all of these ups and downs and like a lot of periods of inactivity. But I think I'm enjoying it more. That's number one. That's for sure. Secondly, Alyssa, you might say I'm crazy a little bit. My crypto trading is my trading away from trading. And what I mean by this is during the week,
Yes, I know.
I'd be trading like stocks, like futures, options, and so on and so forth. And then on the weekend, I don't have anything. So, and on the weekend, I'm usually like, I'm trying not to work, too much on the weekend. So, but to sneak in and just to look over the weekend at the crypto quotes and where my positions are, it's just like always fun. So, yeah, you guys got me involved, and Alessia, it's all your fault. Okay,
Well,
but
it's so
specifically,
it's so much fun, and I think that
yeah,
we are all learning together because
yeah,
the
and
market
I
is
just want to say
teaching.
it is fun to trade cryptos. I mean, like, I finally kind of like in the rhythm of the market. Each market has its own rhythm, and I think that I'm finally almost there. And thank you guys for this. Thank you, Alessio. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to trade cryptos. Well, specifically here, yeah, I think Alessio nails this. With the major sign of strength. And definitely we want to test this. So the ability to overcome and this extension above this line and extension above this line as well is going to be important because that's going to show the character of strength. So I'm really liking, and Alessia, what I'm noticing that the predominant reaccumulation pattern, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off here, the predominant reaccumulation pattern in cryptos is this: a change of behavior that has the majority of the supply, and then we go into some kind of apex formation with the lowering of volatility into the end of the accumulation structure. At the end, we might experience, like this small increase of volatility, which is described by our rules in the WTC course. And by the way, for those of you who are interested, we are starting the new cycle on April 19th. This is the time to sign up and start already preparing for the course. And by that, I mean start reading the required textbook material before the course. So please check out our website and sign up. We also will have a free session. But Alessio, coming back to this kind of like a more theoretical question about how reaccumulations are shaping usually in cryptos, would you say that this apex with lower volatility after the change of character and a lot of supply type of structure is the most common?
Yes, it's so popular. It's such a popular formation in the crypto market. And basically, the trickiest part, I think, it's on the backing up action, because generally all these formations tend to have a very sharp reaction, and so that backing up action generally is very tricky. So it's very typical of momentum assets in general, and this market is very extreme. So much fun to trade, Roman.
Yeah. And why would you say, like, just for me personally, why would you say that this is, what's the reason for the structure to occur? I mean, like, technically, like, obviously some profit taken here, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically, they are closing a lot of stuff here. And then in activity, we know that this probably just pick up in a little bit in volatility just because weak hands are giving up. This is because there is an exhaustion here in phase B. So I'm thinking just overall, Alessio, like why does the structure develops this way?
Well, I think it's due to low liquidity, because basically big market participants can participate and then can be active in this market only on the way down, so they can buy on the reaction, and on the way up. So these low volume areas are very common, and I think that they're just telling us that all these instruments are very, very young.
Yeah. That's how low-priced illiquid stocks move. I mean, like literally kind of the same way. So for those of you who traded low liquidity stocks before, this is very familiar. Okay, awesome. All right, next one.
So another structure, very interesting. We see this this late piece of the structure could be labeled as a big phase C, and we are in a very oversold area. So it's another kind of structure compared to the other ones that we are seeing today that are already at level of resistance. I think it's possible to have an entry right here, and I like the whole structure, man. What do you think about?
Yeah, I'm liking this structure. So we were discussing reaccumulation structures on the previous chart that they have kind of like this apex formation, right? Because of the high liquidity and then suddenly low liquidity events. Here we're seeing accumulation structure, so a regional accumulation. There is no other data here on this, but just this, okay? So the structure is slightly different. And what I'm noticing also in accumulations, Alessio, like when I go through, past examples, is that there are a lot of these upthrust actions that are leading temporarily out of the trading range and then quickly coming back. And that's usually indication that, I'm not yet ready. I'm going to consolidate more. I'm going to like exhaust weak hands more, and then I'm going to move. So very interesting way of how accumulation develops. And yeah, this looks like an attempt to finally assert itself and start going through. And what I like about this particular bar is that the volume signature is actually low. Usually we would be thinking the breakout needs to have a high volume signature. But then look at something like this, right? So where the volume comes in and it's significant around the resistance. Why? Well, because supply comes in and it stops the price from moving further up. So by looking at the low volume signature, that is suggested that supply has been exhausted at this higher level, and we might actually move higher, and then the next point of the resistance for us will be somewhere here. Alessia?
Yes, I remember that uptrust moment because I actually made a mistake right there, man. So basically, I was thinking initially that that was a backing up action.
Yes.
And after just a couple of bars, my stop loss was triggered. But I think if you are thinking about short-term trades, okay, that's a very bad mistake. And I think we can even analyze this in depth, considering the whole context of the market at that structural spot. But if you are campaigning, you can still look for another opportunity to enter in this asset, Roman.
Yeah, and I would be even, and Alessio is so right here. And again, we discussed this in the WTC1, WTC2 courses. There is a trade here. There is actually both a swing trade and a long-term trade. So for instance, let's just say that we're entering somewhere here around this area. We're just kind of like seeing what's developing in this area. Supply comes in, so we know that we have to go through this. We need to have more demand to push through this level and so on and so forth. So let's say that we have two positions. A swing trade is probably the best as like this type of exit. The long-term, because you have to have efficiency, this one or like this one right here. For the long-term campaign, as Alessio was saying, it's very common for us to think of a sign of strength just because there are some signs, characteristics that are, really describing the sign of strength. But then a break here would suggest a negation of this sign of strength. And therefore, what do you do here? So for the long-term investor, you have a couple of options. You can close position, you can trim position, and you can just stay in this position if you're thinking that the bias is still up. So whatever you choose, that's just your risk aversion level and your understanding of the analysis itself. Obviously, there is not a lot of efficiency just to go through this, but this is not that much. I mean, like this is just 1 month. So yeah. And Alessio, I think that we will be discussing this type of tactics under the educational offerings of the new paid Discord that we're going to launch pretty soon.
Yes, absolutely. I've seen that many members of our communities are very interested in very precise point of entries, and we will discuss all this stuff. And generally, in this kind of webinars, we're just looking for signs of relative strength, the context of the market. But of course, precise point of entries are very important. So we'll explore this field.
Okay. Okay, SB,
This is
SX.
this is very intellectually challenging chart, and I must confess you, Roman, that I have this problem. Sometimes I look at a chart that are that are so interesting from the analytical point,
Yes.
and I just fell in love. So sometimes
yes. So you create a very subjective bias, right?
Yes. Because this is very tricky. This is very. So let's try to analyze this with a fresh mind. We see accumulation on the way down, a structure on the bottom, and after that, look at the volume signature. Yeah. The volume signature is actually saying that market participants are coming in just on the second half of the formation. And this is so typical in the crypto world because it's a low liquidity environment. So market participants that are discovering this asset are forced to accept higher prices throughout the consolidation in the second half of the consolidation. After that, we are making higher highs and higher lows on decreasing volume signature. So we still have other levels to test here, but I really like this formation.
Yeah, I absolutely like this too, because again, we've talked about the regional accumulation, how the formation there could be somewhat different, although you could find some apex formations throughout. And then for the reaccumulation, obviously, there's the same type of structure. Apex, now it's upsloping, so it shows more strength, and kind of reminds me, Alessio, of Uni a little bit in terms of how this reaction happens into the higher low on diminishing volume supply. So what's not to like here? I also feel that maybe the character of the move needs to change, and maybe there's going to be a little bit more momentum, because I'm seeing how they are buying here, And even though there is a lot of buying, there is not a lot of momentum. So that tells me that supply is present here on the way up. And as Alessia said, and I love those scenarios, by the way, when there is an accumulation on the way up. We always were taught that accumulation happens in the trading range. Not necessarily, and not always. And usually the accumulation on the way up are the best uptrends because institutions are pushing the price up and it moves. But here it moves, somewhat with the presence of the supply. Here, Alessia, I'm thinking that momentum is going to increase and we're going to see much larger upspread potentially.
Yes, I would like to see further consolidation here, maybe supply signature coming back to the original, to the area, to the values of late December. That would be very perfect. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how this develops, and I believe this is the last chart, right?
Yes, synthetics. So basically, we're in this reaccumulation structure. And so this bar looks like a confirmation bar after spring, but this whole consolidation could last for a longer time. So we have to see. What do you think about this chart, Roman?
Yeah, I'm thinking that this was, somewhat more meaningful reaction that I've seen in some other assets. So I would agree with you that maybe the duration of the trading range will expand. There is a lot of inactivity right now. So kind of like as a previous chart, they've been very active on the way up. There is a lot of like vertical absorption type of characteristics in the spread. And then the reaction is, somewhat significant. Yet looks bullish, but suggests that maybe an attempt to go up, maybe another reaction, and then continuation. All right. Well, with that, Alessio, your final thoughts?
Yes, very constructive session. I think the market looks very interesting. So thank you for all your kind comments and remind your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and we'll just talk to you next week in the same series. And thank you so much for all of your comments on the Discord and on Twitter as well. Thank you, guys.